welcome everybody. Today you see both Janice and I here, and we are going to do an Unveiled Living Conversations via an actual Zoom link. We won't get into the details of all the complications that it took us to do this. And it's something that we are working towards because we have a new podcast coming out that Janice and I are going to be doing together called Lighten Up. And we'll give you more details of that. So we've got to figure this out because that's how we're going to do the Lighten Up podcast is in this format. But for today, we have jumped onto Zoom and I wanted to do, because if at the last Unveiled Conversations that we had back in April, May, it was more where Janice was interviewing me. But today we're turning that around and I'm going to interview Janice and I want you to know a little bit more about who she is, what an amazing person she is. I'm so thankful for the friendship that we have had, oh my goodness, for 15 years. And what a joy it is that she's a part of the Unveiled Living leadership and everything that we're doing. You have no idea already in just the few months that she's been with us, the amount of vision, the amount of passion, the amount of leadership, the amount of just ideas and structure that she has brought to the table. And so it's just remarkable. So we're going to jump in today and we're going to, you might not know this, but she is writing a book called Stepping Out: How to Move Out of Your Comfort Zone and Into Your Purpose with Passion. And you might not know this about her, and I'm so excited for this book to be coming out because you're going to want to read it. Through her family's unique expat journey, you might not know this, but the Lord called them, and they went to Japan a while back, and it's a phenomenal story. So Janice, in this book, she tells us how she overcame her fears and insecurities, how she found encouragement in connecting with others, and how she realized her purpose and how it relates to her calling as a writer and a speaker. She also shares some of the things that motivate her, influence her, and guide her. So everybody, welcome Janice.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, this is, you make it sound like you were such a rat-a-tatted mess before I came in. But you had things pretty structured. But no, God, it's really amazing to see how far God has taken us just by starting this partnership and working with Unveiled and how far it's come since March. It's really kind of mind-blowing. So, and all the ideas that we have going forward, well, our readers and watchers will want to stay tuned for that. So we're not going to give it all away today.
I know. No, we're not. We got to keep some secrets under wrap.
That's right.
Yeah. And just to let you know everybody that is watching this, for starters, we want to thank you for watching. But we are having the craziest internet problems today on her end and my end. It's overcast here, and my internet keeps popping up unstable internet, and Janice is having the same problem. And just to let you know, I'm coming to you from North Carolina. She's coming to you from Massachusetts. So it's like, whoa. So
yeah.
what? So
New
we're
Hampshire.
Yeah. So we're having to train ourselves we're normally we like to converse together. And so we're having to train ourselves on this Zoom call to not, we're just like, you know what I mean? Because we don't want to cut each other's internet out.
Yeah.
So anyway, so if you notice that, that's why. Okay. So let's jump in. All right. So I want to know what motivated you to write Stepping Out and share your journey with the world.
Well, even living
start all over.
Going through the steps to move from small town USA, Bristol, Tennessee.
Wait, start again.
To Japan.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because you cut out the beginning part of it, so start from the beginning.
All right. So when we were offered the position to go to Japan with our expatriate package, we got counseling. We got it's not career counselors, but kind of like counselors that help you move and make that transition. And they meet with not just the employee, but the whole family.
Oh,
And throughout our journey, we were told that our story was like no other. And so I knew even starting out, most expatriates get 9 months to a year in preparation from the time that they receive their assignment to the time that they move. We got our assignment and was moved within a 6 month time period. And so I knew right off the bat that our experience was unique. I just didn't realize how unique because even when we came back, some tragedy hit and we just kept being told over and over, your story's like no other. You need to share this story. And other people who weren't Christians could see God's hand moving in our situation from start to finish. And so I felt like when we got placed here in New England, I had it on my heart to write our story about Japan, but I thought it was something completely different than what it is. And I had to put it aside for a while. And when I'm glad that I did, because when I came back to it, God showed me a completely different perspective on this story and how to tell it. So, and it was during that time in Japan, I began to understand and operate in my purpose, although I hadn't clearly identified it yet.
well,
So
you wrote that in your
that's
subtitle.
the underlying theme that goes throughout the book.
I love that. You wrote that in your
Yeah.
subtitle, which introduces that concept of what you're talking about, which is your purpose and passion. So can you elaborate like what has occurred, what has grown from that?
Yeah. So throughout our story of Japan, it's not just us, oh, we're moving and here's our journey. It talks about how God revealed his purpose in me. And because I couldn't work while I was over there, I had to go on a supporting visa. So I ended up volunteering and I was just sitting on the board for a while. And then I became PTA president. And by the time that I left, I had a full board. I had our uh, position was ending early and we fought to stay, but they were sending us back early. And even the school was like, how can we get you to stay? And it God was showing me your purpose for me was to create unity and to bring people together to kind of bridge a gap and make sure that people had the support and encouragement that they needed. You have to realize I was dealing with an international school where very many cultures and languages and ethnic backgrounds had to be identified because even something as PTA did not mean the same across the board. I had to define everything. I had to bridge a gap. I had to bring people together that I have done. God has shown me this is your purpose. So the avenue in which you bring that purpose forward can change, which is my calling. I've been an office manager, I've been an event manager, now I'm writing, but that purpose has remained the same throughout my job titles. Like my job is going to change. Those callings are going to change. The venue in which that purpose comes forward will change, but the purpose will never change. And so through our experience in Japan, God showed me that. And that's what I'm hoping to help other people identify in their own lives through this story.
I love that because to me, I think a lot of people struggle with what is my purpose and what is my calling. And I think there can be, you can kind of get wrapped up in a little confusion bubble of trying to figure that out. And I love that as you and I have been talking and you've been talking about this book, how much you are to helping. It's like the Lord has helped you to define what that is. And I know that you're going to be able to help other women to define what that is in their life as well. um and I can see it. I can see through the years how your purpose, you're able to apply it in every single thing that you have done. Um,
Yeah, it's that God-given talent, and it's also the thing that drives your passion
mhm.
because God gave you that talent, you like to do it. He's not going to give you something you don't like to do,
Yeah.
right? Or that you're not passionate about. But sometimes we can get so caught up in the position or the platform because we think that it should look a certain way.
Mhm.
But God may be calling you to, clean the toilets at church when he's trying to teach you something in that, or he's testing the posture of your heart.
Mhm.
And so if you're obedient in the little things, the other things will come. They'll come and find you actually.
Mhm.
So I love that. And I am hoping that once you identify this underlying thread that is your purpose, um, I have found in my own life it helps to focus me
Mhm.
and it helps me because I'm always, oh, there's a gap, I'll fill that gap, or I can do this, and then I end up with too much on my plate. So identifying this purpose has helped me to say no to some things because I'm like, does that align with what I need to do right now? Does that align, does that make my heart happy to
Yeah.
do this, or should that be for someone else?
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, so
It's crazy because that's something that I've had to learn too, because I've been what's called a torch picker upper. I'll go and pick up torches. They're laying on the ground. I pick them up. But I've learned, we both have that same
yeah,
similarity, which I think is why we work so, one of the reasons, I mean, beyond, but one of the reasons why we connect so well is because we have that same type of mentality. But I love how the Lord has taught me through the years and more, and even taught me in my, in my years in my 50s, to, if this just does not fit, what God is speaking to me right now in this season of my life, I have to say no to it. And it doesn't mean
yeah.
that we're doing something wrong. A lot of times we feel guilty and, shamed, or no, 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 no. You can say, and you need to say no, to certain things like that. So, one of the things that I know, that when you were stepping out, to do this huge leap of faith, moving into Japan, I know that that revealed insecurities and fears, along the way. So, how did you face those challenges in that season, of life?
Well, I have mentioned this in our Courageous Faith series, but I developed an irrational fear of flying. Now, I don't say that lightly because I was okay with flying before, somehow developed an irrational fear of flying. Um, before receiving this assignment, I had some really turbulent flights that I was like, okay, I'm never flying again. And I couldn't let it go. And I knew that God was calling us to this position. I knew that I needed to support my husband in this. It was going to help him in his career path, jump leaps and bounds. And there was just no way for me to say no. And so I was like, God, I don't know if I'm swimming there or
Mhm.
if I'm gonna be a couple months on a boat, but you know, you gotta get me there. And so it was with prayer was a huge part of winning those battles, but so was education. And at the time, I was going to a church in Bluntville, Tennessee, and the pastor of that church, his father was a retired pilot, and
No.
he and his wife took my husband and our kids out after lunch, or for lunch after church one day, and he was like, "Why?" I just felt okay. I'm just gonna lay it out, and I'm just gonna tell him. I hadn't told anybody except for William, and there would be times I'm crying about it, just so fearful and not knowing how I was going to get there. And he explained some things to me. And I was just like, he was like, Jan, it's like God has his hand on that plane. And, you feel some turbulence, and that's just like, bumps in the road. That's all that is. They're air pockets. And I was like, Well, that makes so much sense. He's like, if the attendants aren't scared and upset, then you shouldn't be either. So I'd feel something in the road and I'd look at them. They're fine, I'm fine. But no, I became very religious in the plane. But I was also very fearful about what to expect once I got there because I didn't know I was leaving my complete support system at home. And my kids would have school and my husband would have work. I didn't know if I was just going to be sitting at home all by myself.
Mhm.
So there were little things um, that for me at the time seemed really big, but also the company decided to uh, have us come, just me and William, go for a trip. Is that's what they call it, look see, and they want you to and experience the place. You get to stay at a hotel. You get to go around with a transitional counselor who will show you around town. These he took us shopping, hours of shopping, because I wanted to know, can my kids get their favorite cereal?
Yeah.
Or kind of ingredients can I buy to make my family's favorites? Or, my husband needs eye drops. Can we get I like,
Yeah.
yes, Japan is not a third world country, but it's different.
Yeah.
And so I learned a lot. So the education and prayer was huge.
I love that. I love that.
I did learn too that it's not just me, but my entire family did so much better the more we learned and the more we prayed. So
It's so
the
good.
kid would mention something that William and I are like, why are they worried about that? But then we were able to address it. And then the kids didn't feel like this was happening to them. They felt like that it was that they were a part of the decision too.
Yeah.
They were 9 and
Yeah.
10 when we went. So
Oh, I remember those days. I so remember those days.
yeah.
And, all right. So when you think the world is telling and teaching us how to say no, which we just talked about this a minute ago, what are the benefits of saying yes?
So I think the best, like your North Star is gonna be identifying that purpose in your life, identifying that those things that drive you, this that constant thing that remains with you when you look back on your life. It's the one thing that ties everything together. Once you identify that, I think that is really going to help you say no to the things that don't line with that and yes to the things that do. Because even if it's scary, like moving to a foreign country where you don't speak the language, um, y'all, I hadn't even been to Canada. I mean, I had never been outside the US borders.
Mhm.
And so when we said yes to that, we put a lot of prayer into it, and we received confirmations. We watched the hand of God move, and our prayers were, God, if you're not in it, we don't want it. And we really watched, okay, that door just flew wide open. That must, that's a sign that it's just little confirmations like that along the way. And so saying yes could be so rewarding because the experience that me and my family got over there, Japan is now a part of us. We
Yeah.
never thought we'd say that, right? And it is a part of who we are. It's a part of our identity. My kids right now, they are reflecting on their time in Japan. We're talking about it a lot because I'm writing the story. Um, my kids are identifying and watching their friends from the international school. Some of them are coming to the US, so
Uh,
it's really kind of cool to see. um I will say that the Japan that we left is not the same now because your expat community changes all the time.
mhm.
So it's the same but different. um and so the reward for saying yes Well, you'll be able to read about our rewards in saying yes to going to Japan. But even if it's taking a friend out for coffee that you haven't seen in 6 months, and you're like, God, I don't know what I'm going to say. It's awkward. Like we may have not, we're not that close, but sometimes saying yes to something you feel God has put on your heart, the reward will always be greater.
Mhm, mhm. You know, I
You've
think
heard me say that before.
I know, and I love that. I mean, that statement to me is gold. I think that too is that I think you can attest that y- by you saying yes to this opportunity that came to you and William to go to Japan has you're standing on that foundation of that yes. And because you would have never
Mhm.
overcome certain fears, certain insecurities, the uncertainty of going to a place, it reminds me of the story of Joshua, where, going in to take over the city of Jericho. That was a very uncertain circumstance. And so, I mean, all of this kind of fits the courageous series, that we've been doing this month of July. But I love though that how the yeses that we give to God in massive, crazy steps of faith is what now you're living off of that yes to this day. And it's enabled you to keep saying yes to those uncertain, unknown circumstances that come into
It's
your
helped
life
me,
today.
right. It's helped me to identify the activity of God.
Yeah.
It's helped me to hear his voice more clearly
Yeah.
and not always say, was that me? When I
Mhm.
know very clearly that was God. And there are times where we have to practice that because we can get out of the habit of watching for God's activity and listening to his voice. So that's something that we have to practice.
Mhm.
And you're only going to get that through prayer in the word in the prayer. That's what our pastor says. Um, and it's so true because God, I will say this, when we first, okay, so this whole position became available because of an acquisition. So the acquisition of the company, my husband's company, it had been taking years. It was a very long process. And so everybody knew this company's acquiring us. We don't know what's going to happen, yada yada yada. So like a year on down the road, they started meeting with everyone at my husband's position and below. Do you want to stay with the company or do you want to stay in the area? Because if you stay with the company, you're going to have to move
Mhm.
because they had made a decision to sell that building,
Mhm.
to sell that plant and manufacture at a different location. And so William and I were like, everyone else is staying here. And he felt for his career, he needed to move outside the area because he had been stuck in the same position because I'm going to brag on him a little bit. He knows so many IT languages that he kept getting moved around to projects. So it prevented him from getting promoted, but it positioned him to not get laid off because everyone at his position higher got laid off automatically. So it was really protection.
Yeah, it was.
And I have watched that, but um, they actually offered the position to someone else, but they said wait because they haven't done their look-see trip yet and they haven't accepted the position. And so we thought, hey, this might I think we're moving to Kalamazoo, Michigan, which is a real place.
Yeah.
Um, and so which was scary too, but not as because it's the US,
Mhm.
whatever. And it's in my brain more attainable. And I know what I can get in the US. And I speak the language. So um, but when they actually offered us, it was my birthday in October when I got the call. And I had just was finishing a homeschool day. I had said I wouldn't homeschool because, God has a special calling on women who do that. And they're truly blessed and called. But I just didn't feel that that was for me until we had moved from Bristol, Virginia to Bristol, Tennessee. And I knew that we were going to move again. We just didn't know where or when. And I didn't want my kids going through multiple transition stages. And so I started to homeschool.
Mm.
So, um, yeah, there are a lot of that saying yes to something like that and increases your faith.
Mhm.
It helps you watch for the activity of God on your life, helps you hear his voice more clearly. And honestly, it brought my husband and I closer, but also this, I mean, it became us four and no more
Mhm.
once we landed there. So it really brought, brought us closer together.
I love that. I love that. So, it's talking about family. How do you balance your writing career with your family and personal life?
Well, as writing has recently become the new front running role in my life, I'm still trying to figure this one out.
I love it.
However, I find, yeah, consistency is key. I have to carve out time and plan for my writing, but that's not 100% gonna happen every day.
Mhm.
Yesterday, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I was just like, work for an hour, got interrupted, work for an hour, got interrupted. And I finally was like, I need the interruptions to stop.
Was
And
I
so
one of
we're
those? Was I one of those interrupting you?
no, and it's just me and my husband and the dog at home. So you can imagine.
I love it.
But we are still trying to figure that out. And sometimes when that train is rolling,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you're like, don't bother me.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, you just
Yeah.
wanna stay buried in a
It's like the
closet.
Ark of the Covenant.
So, what are some of the writers or speakers who've influenced or inspired you in your journey?
Oh, well, there's so many, but right now I am reading a nonfiction book by Jordan Lee Dooley that's really speaking to me, and Rachel Hollis. But speakers that I'm listening to, interestingly enough, they're also authors, but I'm listening to them. I've read some of their books, but like Candace Cameron Bure, Jenny Allen, Sadie Robertson Huff, Karen Wheaton, Lisa Harper, um, it really drawing some stuff out of me right now, and I'll have it on as I'm writing if I'm in that mode. And
Yeah,
sometimes I'm like, oh, that was good. Write that down. I'll come back to that. But yeah.
I love it. That's so good. All right. So then what are you working on now and what can readers expect from you in the near future?
So right now I'm working, of course, on the book project, Stepping Out, which I'm hoping will launch in the front part of 2025. And I'm going to start pre-orders here in the fall or winter. Um, and then I'm working on a website that will include some blogs and vlogs. God's putting some stuff on my heart to share there. And then Unveiled. There's like all kinds of things going on with Unveiled. And really, I don't look at those as two different worlds. I'm I did at first, but now I'm seeing how they're really interacting
Yeah.
and working together. And so I'm like, why am I doing double work?
Yeah. So true.
So and you've created this beautiful platform for me to be able to integrate both worlds. And so that's beautiful.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's just like, it makes me smile so much. I feel like my lips are going to fall off. I love it. Okay. And so then, what advice would you give to someone who is going through a similar situation? And it could be, a situation of jumping into an unknown. It could even be maybe we've got someone here that God has been telling him to write a book. I don't know what that situation might be, but what kind of advice would you give them? And who wants to follow, their passion, and what would you tell them?
Well, I don't want to sound like the Nike commercial, but just do it. Like no, seriously, you have to
Ah,
be willing You have to be willing to take that first step. And if you don't, you'll always be stuck
Yeah.
where you're at. The height of stupidity is expecting change when you're not willing to change something. So, if you desire to be stuck, just stay where you're at and don't take a step forward. But if you are wanting to, you know, it oftentimes that first step is the biggest and the scariest, but I'm telling you, the momentum will keep going and then it'll be easier and easier. I was scared to write this book. I sat on it for so long. When I quit my job on March 1st, y'all have heard the story of that. But I was like, okay. My daddy was telling me you should get back to writing this book, and I'm like, that sounds great, and I have all this time now, maybe. But then I was like, I don't know how to do that, and it could have stopped me. But then I was like, okay, well, today I'm just going to find out what that process is. And then the next day I was like, okay, I had more questions. Okay, find out the answer to that question. And I'm an inquisitive person anyway. So the research, I love the research part of it and finding out and what works for one won't work for another, but at least you can get going. Like,
Mhm.
I like Bob Goff. I was listening to him and how he writes, and I was like, don't he sometimes talks in cliches and stuff, and I don't always get it, but I'm like, kind of sat on that and I was like, but if I write like Bob, then I'm writing like Bob. But I need to write like me. Like
Mhm.
otherwise it's not going to be authentic, right? So
Yeah.
take those nuggets from the experts and the people that, advice God talks about getting a wise counsel. And so take those nuggets and then apply what works for you,
Mhm.
but take that first step. Ask yourself, what's the one thing that I can do today to step in the right direction? If you're wanting to start a garden, go mark the spot, clear the
Mhm.
debris, till the land, and then shift your perspective and start telling yourself, I am a gardener. I can garden. I can make the lilies grow. And then keep that goal in front of you. And if you have to write it on your mirror where you see it every day, put little post-its everywhere all around your house that says, I can garden, I will produce a harvest. You
Mm.
know, find a friend, a good friend who
Mhm.
will tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. That will help encourage you to keep going and check in with you, especially when you don't want to weed your garden and do the hard things.
True.
Not someone that said, I told you so. You
Mhm.
don't need negative Nellies in your life. There's enough of those out there. You need a positive Pam. So go find yourself a positive Pam. So
I love it. I love it. I love that visual because I'm
those
very,
are practical steps.
yeah, it is. I'm a visual person. So the moment you said, go mark your spot, like you pick your garden and now go mark your spot. Where are you going to put that plant? Where are you going to grow those things? And I think that's it. A lot of people, I feel like we get so stuck in fear of, I don't know what to do. Well, you got to start somewhere. So just go mark that spot. And then in today's world, we've got so much at our fingertips than to start researching. You know what I mean? Start and like talk to Positive Pam. Well, what do you think? Give me ideas or whatever it is, and get
Yeah.
rolling. The most important thing is that we take that step of faith to walk into what God has called us to do. And all because that to me is part of that leads us into the calling that he's called us to, and to shine the light of Jesus in what we're doing, because that's going to shine through in everything that we do. But I love that, Jan. I mean, that's just like
Yeah.
that just and
Well, and going back to the garden analogy, it's okay to mark your spot and stand there and think about it. Like you don't have to do everything right now and have instant results. You're
Mhm.
not going to with a garden anyway.
Yeah, yeah,
But also set yourself up for success. Like these grow in unfertile soil, which
yeah, they do.
I just amazing because when you first told me that and that was the logo for Unveiled Living, I was just like, That's so what I needed to hear right now because I feel like like I'm not fertile soil. You
Yeah.
know, at the time that I came to Unveiled, I hate to say this because it's so cliche, but I was broken and I needed to heal from some things. I needed to put some stuff behind me. Some people had tried to rob some giftings and abilities from me that I knew that God had given to me, and I had hid it under a bushel. No, I
Mm.
had to find it again. And
Yeah.
so set yourself up with a success. You know, if you got to plant, what are these called?
Uh, Poppies,
I keep wanting to call them posies.
red poppy.
But if you have to plant poppies to make yourself, set yourself up for success, then do that, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And
You know,
and for me, getting into writing, it was writing one article. I mean, the first article that I wrote coming out of that season was the redemptive story of um,
mm,
my husband's finding his birth mother.
yeah, which was in the spring edition. So if you haven't watched it, I mean, not watched it, if you haven't read it, go to the spring edition of 2024, the eMag, and go check it out because that story is powerful. I
And
mean,
it's true. It is a
yeah,
true
it's a
story.
true story and it is powerful. It could literally be a movie. I mean, that whole,
You know,
I
my
mean,
my mother-in-law is now um, departed from us and living a very healthy life in heaven. But she would, from the time that we met her, she was like, I'm living my lifetime movie.
no, it's so precious.
And my husband, after writing this article, was like, you could actually turn this into a book because there's a lot of stuff I didn't say.
Yeah. No, absolutely. You really could.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
really could.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
So,
no, so
you got to set yourself up for success. I had to start small. I had to,
yeah.
between that, I was like, I can write a recipe. So I had to set myself up for success, but then I felt like I could take the next step
Mhm.
because the book is overwhelming.
Yeah, no, it is. The book is overwhelming. I mean, I've got several I've been working on and it is an overwhelm. It's not easy and it's not easy at all. I think as we wrap this up, and such an inspiring, I mean, my heart just feels, just so full and I love that you brought in the red poppy of the unfertile soil because I really think that more of us than not we are our the soil we stand on is because of a lot of things that might have happened in our life. We're standing on that unfertile soil and we're thinking there's nothing of beauty that can come from my life. There's nothing of purpose, there's nothing of God's calling that can come out of it. But actually there are red poppies waiting literally to flourish in your life. And Janice's story is a true testament that even in standing in that unfertile soil, look what God is doing in her life. And I could say the same for me. So I just want to encourage those that have watched today I know that this story has inspired you. And my question to you is, okay, what are you doing? What has God called you to do? What is your purpose? Because I don't want you to live a life of regret. I don't want you to look back and look at your life and say, I had dreams, I had desires, and I never did anything with it. And you might be 75 years old and watching this. Okay, start today. There's
Yeah.
there's there's never a time not to start, and there's never an age not to start. And I don't have it all in front of me, but we know the stories of so many people that have accomplished huge, huge things, and they did it later in life.
Yeah.
I mean, later in life, some of them very late. And so my encouragement to you is to step out and really just do that one thing. Mark your X in the yard. Go to that garden, put that X there, and begin to cultivate God's purpose and calling in your life. And I can't wait, Jan, to get your book. I cannot wait to read it. I
I got to
cannot wait.
finish it first.
I know. And also, I'm going to be right there back behind you, like, did you write? Did you write? Did you write? And because I think it's awesome. I am so thankful for you, Janice, and I will tell you every day that I live, and I believe in you
Yeah.
and your calling and your purpose. And I know here at Unveiled Living, we love you and we are so happy to have you a part of our family, and can't wait to see all that God does in your life through this book and beyond. And
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to getting to know and building a community not only with our readers but our writers too, and just really bridging that gap and bringing us all together and being a planet and hope and resources for other women out there, and just broadening our borders and
Yeah.
being able to reach more people.
Yeah.
And so it's really exciting, and I love you too. And this is really great.
Yes, it is. I
I'm
love
so
it. I love it.
excited.
I know,
Yeah.
me too. Me too. Okay. Well, next time you see us, you will see us on the Lighten Up podcast, and you guys are going to like it. It's going to be good. We'll figure out all of our tech problems by then. Okay. Now, look, I'm like, how do I pause the
Yes,
recording?
Lord.
All right. See you, everybody.